And for people, so for entrepreneurs, we have a lot of entrepreneurs that follow the Awakening Company, and you deal with a lot of entrepreneurs. Your bank deals with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Sure.
What would be your top 3 pieces of advice? Setting aside that we've talked about Simon Sinek and the why and the how, but what would be your 3 biggest pieces of advice for people starting their own business?
Well, I can't set aside the whole Simon Sinek golden circle thing. I always start with that. If you can't talk about why you exist and what your model is going to be arriving from that, and your economic engine, so you have a sense of purpose and belief, which translates into a process, which results in an economic engine. Whether I talk about the golden circle or the idea of the hedgehog with a purpose, with a passion, with something you do really well, and then with an economic engine. If you can't describe that coherently and succinctly, you can't walk into capital sources, you can't go to a bank. So I think having a sense of what is my business all about in the model. There are one-page business plans where you draw it all on the wall and you show how it works. You need to be able to boil it down to something that you can talk about in the elevator. It's not just the elevator pitch about why I'm here or why the company is here. It's the elevator pitch. Maybe it's more than, maybe it's a long elevator ride, but we're here because, and this is how it works, and this is how we generate cash flow and how we renew ourselves and grow. So having that kind of a really coherent sense of what your business or nonprofit is all about, how it works, that is absolutely foundational. That would be the first one. I think that the second one really is focus internally. We can talk about culture, but how does the team work? And there are a lot of different ways to look at that. I like Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. We use that a lot. But you need some way to look at your team and say, what is a high-performing team? What is a functional versus a dysfunctional team? How are we intentionally going to build team performance? And what are the practices going to be that build team performance? So there's a lot of ways to approach it, but you need some way that's going to look at your internal management structure, the teams that you're building, and see if they are teams that are coalescing around the purpose of the company, the teams that you could describe as a high performance team. So that would be another point on top of the idea of the golden circle or your hedgehog approach. In terms of the third one, I guess there really is going to be, what's our bigger role in the community? How do we fit into the community? We're not isolated from the community around us, and it's community, and it's the planet and the people around you. So it's people, planet, prosperity, and the triple bottom line. So the prosperity is really how we're running our business, but it's also the impact that we're having on the community and the planet around us. Are we thinking about that? Do we understand, not just thinking about it, what are we doing about that? The whole idea of sustainability is that we are looking at the supply chain behind us, the after effects after us, and that we have some sense of where we fit into this bigger continuum, both social continuum and environmental continuum. And without that awareness, you're really trying to live as an island. And yet, as we know, no man is an island, no woman is an island, no one is an island. And we really need to plug into that, the community and the world around us in a conscious and integral way. So those would be 3 things. Big things.
They're big things, and practical tips for people starting, for them to really consider that.
I would add one more thing to that, and maybe this is not worth its own point, but people have a lot of idealism and vision when they're in their company, when they're starting their company. And so very just sort of practical things, since you use the word practical, is what's your plan B? And companies, entrepreneurs often don't have a plan B. Oh, no, this is a conservative forecast. It will work. Well, what if you cut it in half? Oh, no, that's not. We'll blow through that. Well, let's just pretend you cut it in half. That's your plan B. Or you reduce it by 1/3, whatever. So have a plan B and understand what happens to your world if your plan B were to come about even though you think it's unlikely. So that's a very practical tip.